Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a first impressions-ish video to do for you. Usually when I do a first impressions video, that means that I've had a knife in pocket a little bit, done a little bit of cutting with it. That hasn't happened here. This knife is for my giveaway, which when you're watching this is close to coming to an end. I'll be drawing for that on Friday the 28th of August. So while this knife is here, I wanted to just kind of share some of my impressions of it. I'm hoping to get one of these for myself soon. If that is the case, then I will do a full review on it once I have carried and used it. But in case that doesn't happen for a while, this is the Quietcarry IQ, and it is one of the Quietcarry models that I have wanted for the longest. In fact, I think it's the one that I have wanted for the longest, because if you're familiar with my take on the Quietcarry Waypoint, you'll see I adore that knife. It's one of my favorite knives that I own. It will be, I am sure by the end of the year I'll probably do a video of my favorite knives that I got in 2020. It will be on that list. I just love the Waypoint. But before Quietcarry ever came out with the Waypoint, they had the IQ. In fact, these have been around for, I think, a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. And I've wanted one pretty much for as long as I've been aware of them, a couple of years. And I just, for one reason or another, have never ended up pulling the trigger on one. I've been close to trading for them once or twice. I've almost just bought them a couple of times, but the way knife collecting goes for me, sometimes it's about what's shiny right at the moment when I have the money. And anyways, I think I just probably need to buckle down and just get one of them here. Anyways, it's a really interesting little titanium frame lock, and I've always been drawn to the shape of this knife, and on the spec sheet I could tell that it should be a knife that I would enjoy actually carrying and using. This is even a little bit smaller than the Waypoint. This thing is really trim, really small, and it's made with excellent materials, and there's just a lot of cool things going on here. So what we're working with material-wise is Elmax blade steel. You can see this is kind of a sheep's foot blade shape. I really like that blade shape. I find that it's got enough of a tip that I wouldn't be worried at all about making like incisions into material, making a pierce. And then it's also got a nice amount of like a little bit of belly and then some flat. It's just a really usable blade shape for the types of things I would use a knife like this for. We've got titanium handle scales, and we've got the signature Quietcarry little 4 dots there. You can see pivot screw, and then a screw back here, which goes into the backspacer, and that is it on construction. The backspacer is really minimalist, very small back here, just kind of the corner of the knife. And then over here you can see the frame lock. I like that this one is an internally cut frame lock. I appreciate when companies do that. I think it looks better and functions better than having the cut out here. It just, yeah, it keeps everything slim and smooth, and I really like that. We do have a stainless steel insert. I believe, yeah, it does also double as an over travel stop. And then we have the clip, which might be one of my favorite portions of this knife. I just love deep carry clips in general. And then the fact that this one is a really handsome, like good looking milled titanium clip, which matches the knife really, really well, and is still deep carry, comes all the way to the butt end of the knife. It's not a thing you see very often. Usually deep carry clips are like fold over style, not milled. And this one, it's just very minimalist, but very functional. I think it looks good, and I think it suits the knife as a whole. I think it looks really good on the knife, and then in hand, super comfortable. It doesn't bother me one bit in any grip that I put this knife in. It's kind of a win for a pocket clip. Internally, there's no milling or anything, but these scales are fairly thin as it is and pretty small. So this knife is very, very lightweight. As titanium frame locks go, obviously it's tiny, but it's very, very light. This, I'm sure, would be an absolute pleasure to carry. One thing that I should have mentioned as well about the pocket clip before I move on, I don't know if you'll be able to really see it so well, but there's actually it's ground down right where the pocket clip meets the screw, or sorry, meets the scale. So they've ground, because these scales are kind of contoured, they've ground a flat right where the pocket clip rests against the scale, which is just an excellent little touch that they've done that. So the pocket clip sits more flush against the scale. I imagine that's going to make it carry better, have better retention, etc. Really, really cool. So, yeah, overall, the initial sense that I get of this knife is just how small, slim, and light it is. It's a very lightweight, compact package, which for me, if I had this knife, if this was mine to keep, which I'm jealous of whoever wins it, this would be a secondary, and it would fit very, very well into my rotation as a secondary knife. It's about the size, now that I'm thinking of it, as my Kaiser Feist, which I just reviewed. If I had that next to me, I'd show it side by side. But that knife also carries super, super well. This one, however, is even slimmer, noticeably slimmer in this direction. And then on top of that, this pocket clip rides deep carry. And so I think this would even have an edge over that knife, which is a pleasure to carry. I like the blade stock thickness. I like that it's relatively thin without being so like wafer thin that I'd really be worried about it. Elmax is a fantastic blade steel in my experience. I really like Elmax. And yeah, the way that it indexes as well, there's no jimping anywhere on this knife at all whatsoever, other than a little bit right here on the flipper tab. And that flipper tab is very minimalist, very small, and so it's, I think, necessary there. I don't have any issues getting the amount of traction I need to go ahead and deploy this knife consistently and reliably every single time. So I dig that. I think it's a fantastic one spot to put jimping if you're going to put any jimping. But overall, the rest of the knife in my hand, everything just feels very smooth. The contouring on this titanium and the chamfering around the edges makes it really smooth. It almost feels like, I don't know, like a river rock. It's like everything feels like it's been just softened. And I like that a lot. Where my finger rests over the lock bar is not uncomfortable. There's no hot spot there. The corners there are even knocked down. I do get just the littlest bit of a guard right here because of the flipper tab, so I know not to keep going further forward, which is kind of nice. I get a full 4 fingers on here, which my medium glove size hands, extra medium, I fill them out real good. They fit great on this knife. If I had bigger hands, I can imagine it would still be comfortable because of the angle back here and how soft that is. If my pinky landed off the knife, I don't imagine that would be very uncomfortable. Yeah, it's just very smooth everywhere and slim, but I don't know, it indexes well. My thumb goes right onto this nice, it's not like chamfered, it's not crowned, but it's softened edges again on the spine. I don't know. Every time I pull this knife out and put it in my hand, it just confirms that I kind of need one. It's really comfortable. This knife is right up my alley for a kind of classier secondary knife. I have quite a few secondary knives, and I carry a secondary just about every single day. And this, I can imagine just being kind of at the top of the list of knives that I'd want to put in my pocket as a secondary. It's fun to play with. It's got a great action. Deployment is good. For being such a light, tiny little blade, too. I mean, obviously it's not going to like drop shut without having some weight behind it, but it's very smooth. It's riding on bearings, I think. Yep, it's riding on bearings. The frame lock is dialed well. The detent is a good level of crisp without being too harsh. I'm not slipping off of this flipper tab. It's deploying every time. Lockup is solid. I mean, it's just over and over every single little thing that I look at on this knife I quite like. So this really is just an impressions. I feel like if I said much more about it, I'd be guessing about how it would perform, and I've already done a little bit about that. So I try not to make estimations of how something will do without testing it out. But I am almost positive I'm just going to be getting one of these very soon to review myself because I like it so much. I think it looks really cool. It's very minimalist. It's a different shape and design without being overly weird. Sometimes there's such a thing as too different, too funky. I love the clip design. I love how slim it is. I love the weight. I like the balance. I like how smooth it is in hand. I don't know. Yeah, I really want one of these. So whoever wins this, congratulations. I am jealous. It's got a great edge on it. The edge feels just like my Waypoint. It's just really, really good factory edge. I've heard several people comment, even people that I've loaned my Waypoint to, have all specifically mentioned how sharp it is and have asked if I sharpened it. And it's still wearing the factory edge, which I have not been very nice to. I have tested that knife thoroughly. And it's a great edge. I don't know. I really like this a lot. So I'm going to stop rambling about it. I'm sure those who are opposed to my rambling are already upset with this video. And that's the way it goes. And guess what? I don't care at all. Anyways, this has been an interesting one. I really like Quietcarry. I like the guy behind Quietcarry. Every time I talk to him, he's a super rad guy. So generous of him to donate this to my giveaway. I can't thank him enough for that. I'm going to link to this knife down below on his site. I'll link to his Instagram as well. Yeah, not only do I love my Waypoint, but I got to handle the fixed blade that I gave away in my last giveaway, and now I've gotten to handle this, and all of his knives that I've experienced so far have been very, very good. And this is the one I've wanted the longest, and now that I'm experiencing it, I'm kicking myself for not already having one, because I feel like I probably should. So, that'll be that. This is the Quietcarry IQ in L-Max, and this one is, I believe, the stone-washed titanium, if I'm not mistaken. Looks stone-washed to me. It is an awesome, slim, light, little secondary carry EDC folder. So, there you have it. Thanks, guys.